Okay, as I mentioned, we're going to look at how to use the debug tool in Eclipse. Eclipse has a great debug tool, and when you're running your code and you want to see exactly what's happening, maybe you're getting an error, it's exiting prematurely, or it's not exiting, you're stuck in some kind of loop, you can always stop the program using this button on the bottom right down here. Tell it to, if it's red, your program is running. You click on it and it will terminate the program. And then you can add what they're called breakpoints to find out where the problem is. So here's the program we just finished in Chapter 7. I click on the number, I double click on the number, and then I add a breakpoint. There's my breakpoint right there. It tells me it's a PyDev breakpoint. I can put as few or as many in here as I want. So I'm going to add quite a few into here so that when I execute my program in debug mode, it will then stop on those breakpoints and let me step through my program. I typically put in more breakpoints than not because if I want to step through the program, sometimes it will jet off to another class in the Python library and it'll start running that code in there. And I just want to see what's happening if this line is executing or this line's executing, but you'll see that in a couple of seconds. So the exact same program, what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click in the white space, and instead of coming down to Run As, I'm going to go to Debug As, and I will click Python Run. You'll see a little red text show up on the bottom in your console. Don't worry about that. What it's doing is it's preparing the debug screen. And at some point, first off, I forgot I'm going to have to add a string in here. So let's go with hello, comma, world, like we did before, and I hit enter because I haven't hit a breakpoint yet. That's why it asked me for the input because I didn't put my breakpoints in until after line 22, which was well after the input of the data. Excuse me. So now it's asking me this kind of launch is configured to open the debug perspective when suspended. So when suspended means when it hits a breakpoint. I'm going to say yes, I want that perspective because there's some good tools in there that we can look at. First thing I want to notice and look at is in the upper right corner here is my variables. I can scroll down there and I see I've got comma here. It tells me it's a string and it looks like a comma. I've got first string, I've got input string. Input string looks like what I just typed. So these variables are displaying as if the program is running, which technically the program is running. So I've gone through and I've done my test to decide on if I put in a letter Q, a lowercase q or not right here, and it's saying no you haven't, so now I'm jumping into the if statement. And I'm stopped on line 23. Line 23 has not executed yet. I can execute it by hitting the F8 key or clicking on the green arrow with the yellow bar next to it to resume. What will happen is my program will resume and stop at the next breakpoint. So if I click on that, it now has executed line 23, and in the upper right corner I see my token. It tells me my token is a list, and it tells me in my list is hello and world. Those are the values that are in there. And if you notice, it split it at the comma, and there is no comma anymore. Remember, we tested to make sure that the string had a comma in there before we would even get to this point. Otherwise, we'd be stuck in a loop for asking for another string. So it split it at the comma, and you can also see that there's a space before the W in world. So in this list, I can actually hit the arrow to the left of my tokens and open up the list. It tells me that there are two elements or two items in the list, which we'll get to more in Chapter 8. it has those, and then what it shows me is that um, at index number 0 it says hello, and at index number 1 it says world. So from there I can actually let me close this so I don't get interrupted. I can actually see that my list has 2 elements with specific index numbers. And that takes us into the next line, which says the length of my token and what's at index number 0. Index number 0 has hello. So when I execute this line by hitting either F8 or the resume button, it will then create a new variable up here. Typically we'll highlight it in yellow and says first string size is 5. So now I can continue with my program because I know that hello has 5 letters in it. And now it's going to say, okay, if this has a space in it, then I'm going to take out the space. And I'm going to take out the space by going to my tokens, grabbing what's at index number 0, and saying start at 0 to whatever the string size is, which we know is 5, minus 1, and that will then grab anything from index 0 through 4 in my string. So just like the list has index numbers, these strings have index numbers. So this is not going to be true because I do not have a space in my string, so it's going to skip over that and it's going to go down to the else. It will execute the else and it will take what's at token 0, and if I hover over token it shows me what's in there. I can hover over any of my variables down here and it will show me. On this one it shows me that it's 5. That's the size. Down here it shows me what's in my token list, which is hello and world. And now it will assign first string the word hello. And I can look at first string here. There's nothing in there right now. I execute that line, and now first string has the word hello in there. Then I come down here and I say, okay, in my token at position 1, are there any spaces that it begins with? So I'm looking at the very first letter in token number 1, which is the word world. I know there's a space in there, so this if statement is going to be true. So I execute this line, and it comes in here. It says, okay, starting with what's in my token at position 1, so in my list at position 1, which is world, knowing that hello is the first value in there at position 0 or index number 0, token says, okay, position number 1 in my list has the word world. Start at position 1 of that list and grab everything to the end. So it's only going to pull off any leading zeros, or not zeros, but leading spaces to that string and assign it to second string. So now if I go and click my resume button here, I come up to here and I can see that world now is occupied or assigned to second string. And then all I'm doing the rest of the way is I'm saying print it, which I could then see down in my console on the bottom where it says hello down here, and I can execute the next line, which will then print world, and there's world right there. And then I can complete the program by coming down and interacting here, and I'll just put a Q in there to quit. So that is how the debugger works. If I want to get back to my regular programming screen, I will come up to the upper right corner and click on the PyDev icon, and it will take me back to my regular screen. Notice I'm not executing anymore. My terminate button is not red, and pretty much that's about all you need to know for debugging your code, and it shows you how to step through each and every one of these lines. Thank you, and I'll talk to you soon.